Hello, everybody, and welcome to Drilling Down, the podcast on all things energy and climate from the lens of the oil and gas industry. My name is Narek Terzian. I'm the head of strategy and communication at IOGP Europe, and I'm joined today by Klaas Verwer, who is the head of policy and regulatory affairs at Equinor, and who also happens to be someone IOGP Europe works with closely because he's our representative at the European Commission's Innovation Fund Expert Group. Thank you very much for joining us today, Klaas.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. We are going to talk about CCS, carbon capture and storage, but more specifically, perhaps through the lens of, or with a focus on a policy mechanism proposal that IOGP has developed, which is called the CCS Bank. So I'd like us, to cover a few things today. So first of all, maybe just taking a look back at what's happened on CCS over the past, couple of years, but also where we're coming from, what's happened for over a decade or not happened. Then maybe go into the functioning of this mechanism, so the CCS Bank, looking at potential pitfalls or maybe questions that might be raised as we put forward this proposal, and also then finish with the next steps. So, from a regulatory perspective in Europe, how would this become a reality, when, and who are the people who are either holding the pen or the power to influence those holding the pen. So if that's okay with you, I'm gonna jump straight in there.
Great, let's get going.
All right. So, first things first. We are having pretty good discussions about CCS in Brussels at the moment. I would say that for the past few months, maybe even over a year now, we've seen decent momentum. But I wanted to hear your perspective, as a regulatory affairs guy. What do you see the evolution? What do you think the evolution has been like over the past, decade, 5 years, or shorter term? How far have we come on CCS?
I agree with you, Nadesh. The CCS has momentum, and not only in Brussels, but also in various member states. Where we are is that on the European policy level, CCS is now firmly grounded as a solution to support industrial competitiveness, but also in terms of reaching the climate targets. The Commission has come out with the industrial carbon management strategy, and that sets out the options and priorities for developing CCS as a value chain in Europe. As part of that strategy, there's a recognition that to get to the climate targets, CCS plays an essential role. And then at member state level, there are member states that have also put in place various strategies and policy instruments to support the uptake of CCS. And then most importantly, we've seen not enough, but we've seen a couple of projects move ahead. Notably in Norway with the Northern Lights project, and that's ready to receive CO2. And also in the Netherlands with the investment decision of the Porthos project.
Okay, thanks for that perspective. So on the policy development now, from a business standpoint, have projects actually materialized? Has this happened at the same pace as the policy development? Has it happened faster? Has it happened slower? Are we where we want to be, where we should be?
What we see there is that there's a lot of project developers looking into implementing CCS as a solution to bring down their industrial emissions. That's on the emitter side, in the chemicals industry, in the cement and lime industry, in waste incineration, you name it. And then on the transport and storage side, there's also a lot of initiatives being employed. Transport domestically, cross-border, internationally, and on the storage side, there's a number of project developers advancing projects. The reality is that those projects are not advancing fast enough. That has various reasons, but one of them is that today the CCS as a business case cannot stand on their own feet. There is missing money due to the fact that the ETS price is not covering the full cost of implementing CCS as a climate mitigating solution. And that's where the carbon bank comes into play.
Presumably these projects have all very different characteristics. So it's not like all projects have the same cost. So you probably, depending on, if you mentioned a few sectors, so from a sector, there are sectoral differences, there is geographical differences, I would assume, ability to transport and then source CO2. So all of these make up for also a broad range of costs. So the mechanism we're talking about here is designed, again, we're going to go into this, but to cater sort of for the needs of projects that have different characteristics as well, I would assume. So CCS Bank, what is the objective of this mechanism? Really, at highest level, let's say, what does it seek to achieve?
The bank has four principal objectives. And first and foremost, what the bank allows to do is to help de-risk projects and maximize the leverage of private capital. As we just said, there's not enough projects moving forward, and that's because the projects cannot stand on their own feet yet in terms of the business case. What the bank does is that it provides financial comfort for a period of time, which allows emitters to take investment decision, who in turn then will be able to contract transport and storage operators to safely and permanently store their captured CO2. The second objective is the bank is a competitive bidding mechanism, say an auction, and that is a cost-effective and market-based instrument for financial support. Auctions in, say, economic theory, they're touted as to be transparent and effective because you let the market do its work. The auctioneer gets most bang for buck, if you will, because the projects that bid at the lowest levels that maximize their CO2 reductions, they will be successful in the auction.
Okay, so you mentioned 2 out of 4, if I'm correct, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So the first 2, the principal ones, are de-risking projects, providing financial support and unlocking private capital and installing a market-based competition bidding instrument. The second 2 are around the reduced administrative burden. And applying for funding is regarded by many as administrative burdensome. You need to hand in big files describing the project in its totality, following specified methodologies. In an auction solution, the leading indicator is really the price bid that participants place, and then they are asked to submit some ancillary information. But seen from a total perspective, it's much less administrative demanding. And then the fourth objective is around price discovery and market formation. And here, the CCS Bank proposal is taking a lot of inspiration from an initiative that the Commission has employed around a pilot auction for RFNBO, renewable hydrogen. That they launched last year, where there was huge interest from industry to participate in this auction, and ultimately 6 projects have been successfully funded. But what the Commission was able to do is glean insight on market data from the total set of auction participants. And they've made that data available on an aggregated level. Okay. And what that has done for the market is answer a lot of questions around, what is there geographical variance in terms of willingness to pay? What are the cost levels in certain geographies?
Yes.
And it's this type of information that in a nascent market, like hydrogen is, but also CCS is for project developers.
Yeah. You mentioned hydrogen. There is something called the Hydrogen Bank in Europe. And this is, I guess, similarly, it's modeled very much like the Hydrogen Bank, which also seeks to achieve similar objectives, as far as I can remember. Now, we talked about how would this work, like in practice? If you're a project developer, how do you get selected? How is funding allocated? How would it work concretely?
Concretely, the Commission, in this case, as part of the Innovation Fund calls, would install a dedicated topic for CCS auctions. The Commission runs the Innovation Fund calls on an annual basis. The head of the auction, the terms and conditions would be published. So potential participants in the auction get insight into the requirements to participate in the auction and conditions. And then the Commission would run the auction. Where there's a time period when a call window is open, and by the call deadline, participants they submit their bid, as well as an ancillary package of required information. The Commission would then verify that ancillary package to see if all projects are eligible to participate and have all the required elements in place, and then would rank the bids on a bid curve, and depending on the budget, then selects the number of successful projects under the auction.
So I mentioned that you're quite closely involved with the Innovation Fund work as an expert, and so how would this compared to other mechanisms in the Innovation Fund?
So we've taken a lot of inspiration from the Hydrogen Bank, as you mentioned earlier. CCS has been funded also through the Innovation Fund regular grants. There's a number of emitter and storage projects that have received funding through that scheme, but here, what we'd be looking to do is to move the grant allocation to the next stage, to this competitive bidding environment, whilst still keeping open the option for project participants to participate in the regular Innovation Fund call.
Okay. And how about interaction, or would this potentially duplicate existing mechanisms at national level? Because I think you said in your introduction that in some countries, in some European member states, there were mechanisms. So what would be their interaction, duplication? Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, that's correct. So some member states have some very successful schemes in place, but not all member states have schemes in place. And the Commission also offers a auctions as a service concept. Their member states can provide budget for projects on their natural territory that are not funded from the EU budget. And again, to the objective of reduced administrative burden, if countries participate through these auctions as a service concept, they don't have to invest make that investment to set up dedicated schemes in their respective countries. And from project developers' side, the project developers don't need to learn and understand all the intricacies of the various schemes at play in various member states. So this is really very complementary in that sense.
Okay. made a good case for the CCS Bank, I would say. Now, as any mechanism, there might be questions, right? Potential pitfalls. I just asked about duplication, but so it's a bank, right? How is it going to be funded? How is it going to be responsibilities, the distribution of responsibilities? What does that look like concretely? Because bank is a big word. And that's going to raise some eyebrows the same way it raised eyebrows with the hydrogen bank. So here's another bank, this time for CCS. But so let's talk about responsibilities with private investors on one side, member states, the EU. What does that look like?
Yeah, indeed. So the term bank has received a lot of questions, also under the European Hydrogen Bank, because the mechanism is not a bank as such, lending money for example. Also here, the CCS Bank would be funded at the European level from the EU Innovation Fund, and that itself is funded by ETS revenues. And then in this auction as a service concept, member states are invited to pool budget to provide additional budget beyond the European budget. What the subsidy then will do, it will unlock the private investment, because with the budget guarantee that this carbon contract for difference provides, project developers have the financial comfort to move forward with their project.
In terms of pitfalls, so isn't there a risk of mechanism specifically for CCS? How do we look at that risk?
That's always a perspective to consider. CCS needs to be accelerated, and it needs to be accelerated now. At the start, we spoke about where we are in the policy stage, but we need to move from policy to action. We need to see more projects being realized to reach the net zero industry objectives of 50 million ton of injection capacity by 2030, and ultimately to avoid the greenhouse gas emissions being emitted. As well as supporting European industrial competitiveness. The know-how and technology for doing this is in Europe. Europe is a front runner when it comes to CCS globally. And in terms of manufacturing capacity, building this kind of equipment. So there's also a huge opportunity in helping accelerate CCS from an industrial competitiveness perspective.
Yeah. When we talk about projects, and you mentioned Europe being a front runner, how does the mechanism, how does it make sure that the most credible projects are the ones that actually go through the process?
That's a valid question. From a public financing perspective, do you want projects to be realized, and you want to have cost-competitive projects to be realized? So, as part of the auction design, there are certain qualification criteria to be able to participate in the auction, and that includes, for example, that participants need to submit certain strategy or procurement or documents or agreements that are in place for the Commission to verify that these are serious industrial projects that have what it takes to move forward to the next stage in just the next few years.
Okay. When you take the project, like, so from a project developer perspective, how does so we're talking in the framework of the ETS. We know that the price of carbon allowances in the ETS fluctuates a lot. So from a project developer perspective, what type of guarantees, if any, does this mechanism provide to make sure that a credible project remains viable throughout, its lifetime, or at least the amount of time it gets the funding, the subsidy?
The contract for difference as a solution has brought renewables where it is today. Also, in the early days of renewables, projects were faced with high costs, with risks,
Yeah.
and the contract for difference concept has provided that financial comfort for project promoters to move forward. And the same is in the CCS space. The ETS price is where it is today. It's too low. It's anticipated to rise. But the budget guarantee that a carbon contract for difference, like the CCS Bank offers, provides that financial comfort for project developers to move forward.
Yeah, it's a good point. We tend to forget that renewables, we started with feed-in tariffs and then moved to feed-in premium. So I guess as a mechanism, it has, as you said, proved how powerful it can be. And if there's political will behind it, we can do amazing things. And doesn't mean we have enough renewables. We probably need to develop a lot more. But for CCS, I think that's a good analogy that it can help kick off the market and until projects become more and more economically, commercially viable themselves.
Right.
Let's talk about looking ahead. We covered, I guess, the functioning of the mechanism, the case for the mechanism. We are in December of 2024. We have a new commission in place as of a few days ago. It has a big job on its hands, which is to restore industrial competitiveness. And we are expecting in February of next year the publication of a Clean Industrial Deal proposal. Now, we are coming as IOGP Europe with this proposal now. Why do we feel it's important for the Commission? Why is this the right time for the Commission to act on it?
It's time to move from policy files into action. From a framework perspective, everything is in place. The Innovation Fund is there as a tool. Competitive bidding is under the Innovation Fund as an option. It's proven its effectiveness with the European Hydrogen Bank example. Now is the time to allocate and prioritize a dedicated topic for CCS under the Innovation Fund. And so what the Commission needs to do in this case is provide the funds to make this possible, because the Innovation Fund itself doesn't have limitless funds. So there's also priorities that need to be set there. The budget needs to be increased, and the CCS need to be put up as a priority and installed as a dedicated topic under the Innovation Fund.
And how do we do this? Like from a purely legislative perspective, is it do we have to wait for the next ETS revision, or can this be done faster? We talked about Innovation Fund. Is there a way to make the necessary changes to get this done in a shorter time frame than the usual timeframes that we work with in Brussels, which can take 2, 3, 4 years, who knows?
I would say everything is in place.
Okay.
This is about political priority and about allocating the decent budget from the framework side, and nothing is stopping us from installing competitive bidding auctions for CCS already from next year.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. So member states, policymakers, we want them to act. Is that the message today? What is it that we're asking concretely? Just get this done. What are we waiting for? Or
get this done, move from words into action, allocate the budget, make CCS a priority under the Innovation Fund, and accelerate the European level-wide deployment of CCS as a tool to support industrial competitiveness and help reach the climate targets that we're also invested in.
Thank you very much, Klaas, for coming today, for covering this topic with us. Appreciate your time and your expertise. Good luck with pushing this proposal forward. We might have another opportunity to discuss this, perhaps further down the line, take stock of what's happened, from this conversation to between this conversation and the next. So again, thanks very much for coming. Good luck with the work. I know you guys are doing some very cool work with the experts at IOGP. Who I didn't mention this, but credit goes really to the member companies that are working at IOGP on this. It's weeks and months of work to come up with a proposal like this that has been carefully weighed. But also the fact that this is a proposal that is fundamentally designed for emitters. And so actually we might just finish with that, if I may ask you a question. Why does IOGP come up with this proposal? And can I ask what's in it for us? What's in it for our segment or segments, storage, transport of the value chain? Perhaps it's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, no. So thank you for the invitation to join here. We've worked over the last period with the expert group to come up with this solution, which we believe is ready to be implemented in the Innovation Fund. On this question of CCFDs funding to emitters, what we need as transport and storage operators is security of demand. We can only invest in our solutions if we have emitters ready to commit into contracts with us, and for emitters to be ready to commit to a contract with us, they need to have financial support to install the capture installations on their site, to run those installations, but also to cover the cost of transporting and storing the CO2. So in terms of the famous chicken and the egg problem, by providing these funds to the emitters, you're able to sort of unlock the chain and accelerate the deployment of CCS on a European level.
And as you mentioned, there is a target on our sector to develop storage capacity. I would say what matters most is that storage doesn't stay empty, and so that we can incentivize emitters to capture these emissions, get them transported and stored, and make a difference from a climate perspective. So thanks again for the work you guys have done. Thanks for coming here today. And I want to thank everybody else for watching or for listening. And we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you learned new things. And if you've got questions, drop us a line. You could follow us on social. And we're always there to talk about these proposals more in detail. You'll find everything on our website, IOGPEurope.org. It was a pleasure to be here with you, Klaas, today. And I'll see you guys around very soon. Thanks again.
Absolutely.